What's up, guys? It's the Odds Couple. I'm Taylor.
I'm Sam.
We're back with the second week of the playoffs,
Yep,
right?
divisional round. Yep.
All right. Well, so it's not called the second week of the playoffs.
Yes, it is.
I'm asking, like, legitimately.
I mean, yeah, it is. It is the second round of the playoffs.
Like, people don't walk around and say, "Oh, we're in the second week of the playoffs," or they say, "We're in the divisional round." Which one do they say?
I say divisional round. I'm sure. Yeah, you can say second week if you want.
Neither here nor there, I guess. Okay.
It's not.
All right. So before we jump into this week's stuff, let's go over last week.
Okay.
All right. So the first game, Browns Texans, you took -2.5 and the total over 44.5. Did that happen?
The total hit easily. Okay. The Browns did not
cover.
No.
Okay.
They got blown out. It was a close game for like the first quarter. Even first half.
Yeah.
Flacco's back-to-back pick sixes is really what sealed that game. So Texans handled them pretty easily.
I feel like I saw people posting about Flacco. It's like saying something.
Oh yeah, well he was. We talked about him last week. He's been hot. He kind of helped the Browns get into the playoffs after Deshaun Watson went down. So, but we hit on all his props.
Yeah. So you took him over 270 passing yards.
Yeah, it was like 275, I think.
275. Sorry.
He hit that.
And then. What other props did you take on him?
The interception.
Oh, okay.
He did throw an interception. He did not get his touchdowns. I thought he was going to because I think he threw one in the first quarter, I believe. But he ended up with just the one touchdown. But he threw an interception, which he did every game he played this year, and he did, go over the total pass yards. So.
Okay, and then you took. So I don't know if I can pronounce his name right, but David Njoku.
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 Close.
Okay, over 54 yards and 5.5 catches.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
I was gonna say we did mention the catches. I believe weren't out when we put the video out. But we said if they put it at 5.5, which is
I think you did say that,
exactly what they put it at, that we were gonna hammer it, and he went well over that. I think he had 9 catches and he crushed his yards. So. Hit on both of those as well. So
which is what he has done in the past, you had said, right?
Yeah. I mean, we gave all the stats last week. We don't have to
Yeah.
run through that again, but yeah. I mean, that's why we liked it.
Okay, so no other things for that game. We're good.
That's all I had for that game.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all I remember.
So the next one was Dolphins Chiefs. You took Chiefs -4.5, the under 44.
We did, and both did hit.
Okay.
That blistering cold game, which we I got off work and met you for the end of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chiefs -4. They covered easy. It did stay under. The Dolphins, kind of a disappointing offense the end of the year there, and it continued into the playoffs. So it stayed under. We did hit the Pacheco TD as well.
I had you over 3.5 receptions and a touchdown.
Oh, his receptions did not hit.
Oh, okay.
But the touchdown did.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, I think he only had 1 catch. They really didn't have to do anything. It was a super cold game, so they didn't really, Rashee Rice was really their whole offense through the air.
So did he hit his 5.5 catches and over 67.5 yards?
Good segue, right? Yes, he did. He killed both of those as well.
Okay.
So he did hit both of those.
Check.
Yeah, the only thing on that game we missed was the Pacheco catches. Unless you have something else that I don't.
No, I just wrote down that you had the 3.5 receptions and the touchdown.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. So.
All right, so that was pretty good turnout there.
Yeah, very good game.
Steelers Bills -10 and the over at 36, but I think this was the over that you said you wouldn't take.
Yeah, so again, I said I liked the over because the Bills could put the points up themselves.
This game was rescheduled because they had like a blizzard.
Correct. Yeah. So that's what was in my opinion was kind of unfair on a lot of the stuff because like I liked a lot of the guys' carries, which did end up hitting on some of them, but like Najee Harris, I liked his carries as well. He didn't hit his because it was postponed. The field was very clear. They weren't playing in the snow. Who knows what happens if that game was in a blizzard like that.
Did Josh Allen get his?
He did. He still got his, and I like him, especially in the playoffs, to get his carries almost all the time. Of course, it depends what they set it at, but and sorry I keep looking down. I have she's got him up, and I got mine up here to kind of make sure we don't tell you guys the wrong thing. But, yeah, we hit the Bills -10. We hit the over 36. Josh Allen had his carries. Cook had his carries.
I also had you for a Josh Allen touchdown.
Yeah, he got his touchdown. Yep. So.
And then James Cook over rushing attempts, 14.5.
Yep, he went over that.
Okay. And Boswell and Tyler Bass under 1.5 field goals.
They did. They each I think they both made 1 field goal, but neither of them went over the 1.5. And I believe we even mentioned that not only did we like it because of the weather, which again, I'm
really
not going to lie,
factor,
I still took it, but of course when it kicked off, I wasn't as in love with it as I was had they had been playing in the snow, but like we mentioned, someone like Tyler Bass, he had only made 2 field goals in less than half of the games. He'd missed 5 on the year.
Mhm.
So he got one blocked and missed a chip shot. So
Saved you there.
yeah, so that cashed that one. So
Nothing else I missed there.
so I to be honest with you, I don't remember if we mentioned this on the podcast, but I had written down a Mason Rudolph interception. I know we hit that as well. So
Maybe you did
I
mention
don't
it.
remember if we mentioned that or not. So I won't.
Actually,
I didn't take credit
you did
for
talk
that.
about Mason Rudolph, but I don't know if you had said you would take the interception or not. I don't remember.
I'd have to go back and look, but I did not count it because of that. But
Okay.
I have it jotted down for
But did it happen?
our picks. Yeah,
Oh,
he
okay,
threw an
so-
interception. So.
All right, good. Next one, Packers Cowboys. Packers plus 7.5 and the over 50.5.
Yeah, we did. We said that we'd like the Packers to keep that close. And now, granted, I didn't think the Packers would blow them out. I don't know that anybody did, other than the fact that the Cowboys just always, crap the bed in the playoffs. So.
So this was where you took like the team total. You were saying that you would take the team
Exactly.
totals.
Yeah. So we did hammer that. We took both team totals, and they both hit. Packers hit theirs in the first half. So yeah, no, that was a fantastic pick for the Packers. When I saw that discrepancy, it was just weird.
Yeah.
And so I loved it. But yeah, and then the Cowboys hit theirs at the end of the game, just chucking it up to come back. And they hit theirs. I think it was if I'm not mistaken, I think it was a 2-point conversion that put them over that 30.5.
Oh, okay.
So, but yeah.
Dak Prescott, did he get over 1.5 passing touchdowns?
He did, and as I think we did mention as well that you could tease that up and take it at 3 or 4 touchdowns, and then tease up his yards. The 3 touchdowns did hit.
Okay.
And he did throw for 400 yards. So.
Okay. Jordan Love over 1.5 passing touchdowns.
Yep, he hit his. I think he had 3.
Okay.
3 or 4.
So you could have teased him up too.
What did he have? He had 3.
Okay. And then Jordan Love over 22.5 completions.
That did not hit. And I did really like that one.
Okay.
But
you were all over Jordan Love for that game.
Yeah, so that they went. I mean, you think that the Packers would kind of be chasing the Cowboys, and it was really the other way around. So, not only did the Packers, I say they didn't have to sling it around, they still kind of did.
Yeah.
But every pass went for freaking 50, 60 yards. I mean, how many times did they have busted coverage for a big touchdown?
Yeah.
That's only one passing completion, and you just drove the length of the field. So that kind of hurt them. And then, of course, the fact that, Love came out of the game for a short period of time there before the Cowboys started making a comeback. And, they could Aaron Jones was getting chunk plays on every run. So, of course, you're not getting completions with that. So,
yeah.
But that was about the only thing I think in that game that we didn't
hit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good. Next one, Rams Lions. You took Rams plus 3 and the over at 51.5.
Correct.
So the Rams did not win in that game, right? The Lions won?
They did not. The Rams lost by 1. So we hit the plus 3.5.
Yes.
We did not hit the total, which at halftime I would have said was a lock, but they just slowed down in the second half. Rams lost by 1, 24-23. So the over did not hit in that. But again, I really would have. At halftime, I was like, "Oh, this is easy. This is a lock." But nope.
So you had mentioned in our last video that the Rams were gonna win outright potentially, so that did not happen.
Yeah, and they had a chance to.
Yeah.
They honestly, if it wasn't for Sean McVay, with his just to me terrible play calling in the red zone, they had to settle for so many field goals, and it came back to bite them. And then obviously they couldn't pull it off at the end. But McVay I think it was the first drive for them. Kind of set the tone for it, where he got inside the 5 and just passed it 3 straight times. Didn't even attempt to run. And don't get me wrong, going into it, I had said, honestly, again, I don't remember if we mentioned this on the podcast, but leading up to it, I remember, chatting with Justin, who's a Rams fan, that I liked Kyron Williams under because the Lions have a good run D. So I get that, but you got to give him a chance to punch it in there with, how good he is at the goal line. But
I
anyway.
don't have Kyron Williams on here, but I do have...
Yeah, I don't believe we mentioned in the podcast, but basically my point is I understand that the Lions actually have a really good run D, but you have to at least try it once down there.
So I do have you for a David Montgomery touchdown.
Yes.
That happened?
It happened.
Check.
In fact, we took him first TD score.
Yes.
So that was a good hit. He did score the first one.
That's even more money.
Yeah. Yeah, and we also mentioned, I know I mentioned that if you take Gibbs, Montgomery, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Sam Laporta and parlay all 4 of them.
Oh, yeah.
That it's hit multiple times. I remember talking about that. 3 of them got it in the first half.
Oh, wow.
I was waiting I did it. I put $5 on it to have fun with it.
Everyone say hi to Augie.
Yeah. Augie's making an appearance.
Hi, buddy.
So yeah, he'll tell you that Amon-Ra St. Brown did not come through for me to complete that 4-leg, but yeah, it almost happened.
So David Montgomery, did he get the 54.5 rushing yards?
He did.
Okay.
So, yeah,
and
hit that too.
So I have touchdowns for Gibbs, Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, and Amon-Ra St. Brown, which you just said did not happen.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
And then both Cooper Kupp and Puka over 5.5 catches.
No, I'm sorry. You said Nacua touchdown?
Yeah.
Yeah, he did. I didn't have that written down here.
Did Cooper Kupp get a touchdown?
He did not,
okay.
but Nacua did.
So Nacua was the only one that did get one, and then both Kupp and Nacua over 5 catches.
Nacua was.
Okay.
Cooper Kupp, I believe, only had 4, if I'm not mistaken.
So still not terrible in that game either. Then the last game was Eagles-Bucs +3 and the over 44.
Yeah. So Bucs +3 definitely hit because they won.
Yeah.
And then over the 43.5 did not. Eagles did not put up their. I think it was 26-9, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, Eagles they did Eagles things. And I know there wasn't a lot out as far as props and stuff when we took that.
Yeah.
And
you had said that Devontae Smith, Jalen Hurts, and AJ Brown were all questionable.
Correct.
Yeah.
And AJ Brown did not play.
Okay.
But it wouldn't have mattered. I mean, the Eagles just were out of sorts. Their defense was just Swiss cheese at the end of the year. We talked about Matt Patricia, and that's what they look like. So, yeah.
So Mike Evans, did he get a touchdown?
He dropped one in I think it was the first quarter.
Oh, I feel like I do remember that.
Yeah, they went deep to him. I thought we had it, and he dropped it. So.
Rashad White over 23.5 receiving yards.
Nope, did not hit that. He had one catch for just a couple yards. Oof. So that was it's like kind of the script. I mean, they jumped out to a lead,
a lot
and
of that wasn't out when we were even picking this stuff.
Yeah,
so.
but I definitely would. I've liked Rashad White in a lot of his receiving yards are always set right around this, and I've taken it multiple times this year. So I would have taken it either way. So no excuse there. But just the way the game plan set up, they got out to a lead, and they didn't really have to throw it to him. So.
And then the last but not least, Chris Godwin over 4.5 catches.
No, he had 4.
Oh, just shy.
So again, I did think it was going to be a little bit closer of a game, and they probably would have had to throw more, but not really. I mean, they had some deep shots and a lot of Eagles missed tackles that went for touchdowns. So Baker got his 2, but not the top 2 receivers. Sorry, this is such a unprofessional podcast. The dog is trying to flip our table.
At night. The dogs are going a little crazy. So, all right. So we just recapped last week. Let's jump into this week. We got the first game tomorrow. Texans Ravens, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
+9.5. Total sitting at 43.5.
Yeah, you know what?
How are we feeling?
I got to be honest with you. So no Mark Andrews. They talked about him potentially playing in this game all week. He had full practices, and he's not. He's out. Then you have Marlon Humphrey, who's out, which isn't that huge of a deal because honestly, he's kind of overrated. No offense. He's just in this defense. I feel like a lot of guys have stepped up. That in the past I'd be worried if Humphrey was out, but I think it's more on Mike McDonald. The scheme that he's been playing is why the defense has been good. So not too worried about Humphrey. But I don't know. I see the Texans keeping this game close. Their D has been playing well, and they played well against the Ravens. Granted, it was a completely different game. They played week 1. But they kind of kept Lamar in check. It was like a 9-6 game or 9-0 game at halftime, something like that. If I remember correctly. I know it was close. And it was a completely different C.J. Stroud. So, yeah, the Ravens shut him down, and they've been shutting down quarterbacks most of the year. But just completely different C.J. Stroud. He's been playing out of his mind, and we all know the history of Lamar in the playoffs. They get bounced in the divisional round a lot, and it's just going to be one of those things. They come out rusty with the rest, 2 weeks off for most of these guys, and we'll kind of see, but I think it is going to be a close game. And I think it's more so them kind of keeping Lamar and the Ravens offense in check. Okay.
So total-wise, what would you take?
I am going to go. I would lean over the 43.5.
Okay.
They stayed under it in their first game. Again, you can't really judge it by week 1. But, but again, just the way the Texans have been moving the ball, and then obviously if the Ravens do come out not rusty and looking like the team that beat the Dolphins and the Niners handily, then it seems low to me, 43.5.
Yeah.
So I do lean over, even though I don't think the Ravens come out and put up fireworks on offense like they did against the Dolphins,
Yeah.
and the Niners, but yeah, so.
All right. Next game, Packers 49ers minus 9.5. Total sitting at 50.5.
Well, I do have a couple more things for you
okay.
before we move on.
All right. My
so
bad. Rewind.
With I do see, just because again the Ravens have been shutting down quarterbacks. Even though I see Stroud, I didn't really look at his yards or anything yet, but I do just see him. I see him throwing a pick. So I'm gonna actually look into that because the Ravens have forced turnovers with quarterbacks. And I also like, if you can find it on certain apps, a Kyle Hamilton sack. So he's kind of the Swiss Army knife of the defense, and they love to blitz him off the edge. So I would look at that because that's something that should be positive money. And then my favorite bet, maybe my favorite bet of the week, is a Gus Edwards touchdown.
Oh, wow.
It's positive money right now. You can get it up to like plus 115.
So bet it right now.
Yeah, and also check all the apps. Like, do some app surfing and make sure you get the highest odds. So like,
Never put all your eggs in one basket.
I love the. Thanks for the input.
Just your little, mental note for
But
today.
no, I mean, if you have, there's 20 different sports betting apps, and they all have different odds for stuff. So if you like a guy's receiving yards, check around a couple of them and see if you might be able to get it 5-10 yards, and maybe not 10, but like Rashee Rice, which we'll talk about in a second.
Mm-hmm.
He's a 5-yard difference between FanDuel and DraftKings right now.
Wow.
Gus Edwards. You search around, you can get him at plus 100, or you can get him up to plus 115, and it's difference of a couple dollars.
Yeah.
You might as well; it's worth it. But anyway, if they get inside the 5, it's Gus Edwards territory. He's scored in 8 of the last 10 games, excluding the Pittsburgh game, obviously, because no one really played. Lamar wasn't there to move the ball and stuff. He played a little bit, and he's got 12 total touchdowns on the year. So. Yeah, I love him. Even to sprinkle a little bit on first touchdown score, I'd do that as well. It's probably around plus 600. So,
okay.
Yep.
Well, if you love him, you should write him a love letter.
I meant I love the bet. Okay, I'm sure he's a great guy.
Send him a big heart.
I would have, but I'm married now.
All right. So is that everything for game 1?
That's everything.
All right.
Please
so
don't cut me off again.
My bad.
Just kidding. She's gonna get me back for that off camera.
All right. So next one's Packers 49ers minus 9.5 total, sitting at 50.5.
Yeah, I like the Niners minus the 9.5. I mean, obviously we talked about Jordan Love has impressed me, and I was the guy that was completely off of him at the beginning of the year.
Mm-hmm.
But he's impressed me the second half of the season, especially, and I just think their time is gonna kind of come to an end here.
Yeah.
The Niners, off a bye again. You have that potential rust factor, but they're kind of used to this, and they've been in the playoffs a bunch. I get, Purdy just started last year in the playoffs, but like Shanahan's been there numerous times. Niners have been. I just like the experience of the Niners, and the Packers D really honestly isn't all that. I get last week, they kind of shut down the Cowboys when it mattered, and then the Cowboys came back in the second half a little bit to kind of pad stat. But, I think they come out. I don't think they're going to be able to stop McCaffrey, Debo, Kittle, Ayuk. I mean, the Niners just have too many weapons.
Yeah.
Brock Purdy has heard for the past several weeks how, he's a system quarterback, and he went from MVP to, this guy wouldn't really, he's not really a starter. He's just a system quarterback. Like, I think he's heard enough of that. I'm going to take him and the Niners to really shut down the Packers and just put up a ton of points on them. So I like them minus the 9.5, especially if it stays there, because, obviously that 10 is kind of a big point mark right there. Brock Purdy over 1.5 touchdowns. He's done it in 6 of the last 8 games. So I would take that as well. I like Debo for a touchdown.
Okay.
He's so versatile. He can do it receiving. He can do it rushing. They like to give him, some jet sweeps and stuff as well by the goal line. He's had 7 receiving and 5 rushing touchdowns. And he's scored 6 of his last 8 games, before that final Rams game, which again, like, they didn't all play the whole game. And then you can always take McCaffrey, but he's probably like minus 300. So the money really isn't there. If you're going to take him, maybe take him for the first touchdown scorer. And then I like Brandon Ayuk. But something interesting about him. So he's got 7 games of 100 or more yards, right? So and his line is set at like 67.5 right now. He's only got
Seems low.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
But what's interesting about it is so only 3 receivers have more 100-yard games than him this season. It's Tyreek Hill, CeeDee Lamb, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Obviously, all great receivers. The games that Ayuk doesn't, so he's got 7 games of 100 or more receiving yards. Then he's got 9 where he didn't. In those 9, he's had 1 that was 76, and the all other 8 were in the 50s or fewer.
Okay.
So basically what I'm getting at here is he's boom or bust.
Yeah.
He could put up 100+ yards or he could just be invisible. And with his line set at 67.5, just a food for thought here. Again, trying to get some good lines and extra cash. If you think he's going to go over it, which I'm kind of doing, I'm sprinkling some on him to get 100 or more yards. Like, I'm just going to bet that.
Okay.
Because when he has a good game, he has a great game. And that you can get that at like plus 275 right now if you take him to have a 100-yard game.
If he's at 67 and you take him at 100, you're probably getting really
good
payout.
Yeah, last I looked on probably DraftKings, it was plus 275 to get that. And if he doesn't hit that line, it's a good chance he's like, if he doesn't hit 100, it's a good chance he's not going to hit the 67 just based on kind of his track record this year.
That's a fair point.
Anyway, if I know that was hopefully that made sense, but and then I like George Kittle over 52.5 yards as well. He hit it in 10 of the 16 games he played in this year. So and he's a guy that probably him and Debo. It's funny they have 2 of the guys that are really the best run after catch guys. Kittle's almost impossible to bring down one-on-one. So, I mean, he catches, a 10-yard pass. He can break it for big chunks, and obviously you love that on a guy that, his line's only set at 52. So
every time you say his name, I think of kettle corn.
George Kittle corn. All right.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I don't know. The Kittle just reminds me of, like, kettle. So
could be our fantasy name next year. Never know. I did put the under. I lean the under 50.5 as well. Okay. I see it being a game where I remember we talked about at the beginning of the year, they had like 4 straight games of exactly 30 points, but they completely shut the other team down.
Yeah.
I kind of could see something like that. Like they get all their stars involved. They all kind of have big games. They hit over their team total mark, which is set at 30.5, but then they just run the ball and play defense. And I could see them winning. Like they score something in the 30s, but they hold the Packers to 10 or less. So I'm leaning the under 50.5 as well.
Okay. That's all your prop bets for that one too?
It is.
Okay.
It is, yes.
All right.
Yeah, I didn't take anything on Green Bay.
Yeah.
If I had to, honestly, I'd look at Aaron Jones under rushing yards just because, the Niners D isn't what it used to be. They've had some injuries and stuff, but if they get out to a big lead, it's going to completely eliminate Green Bay's rushing attack. So, but
all right, so going with the Sunday game, the first one's the Bucs Lions -6, total at 49.5.
Yeah, I do like the Lions. They're at home. They did beat the Bucs back a couple months ago, and it was like a 20-6 game, I believe it was. But Bucs have played better of late. Yeah, I don't know. I just think the Lions. I think they got a good matchup here. So I was unsure about them.
This game was a toss-up.
Yeah, well, I honestly thought they were a little overrated. And I know they're a great story, and everyone's kind of pulling for them. Yeah. But I just don't think they're on the level of the really good teams, which are kind of fewer this year. But if they get stacked up against the Niners or the Ravens or something, I mean, we've seen what happened when they got stacked up against the Ravens. But I don't think they're on that level. But I think they got a good matchup here. It is close, but I lean the Lions at home. To kind of continue this trend here. Again, sorry, this is so unprofessional. I'm hardly even looking at the camera. The dogs are just having a grand old time behind here.
Sorry.
We're not cutting any of this out. It's too late. So just but yeah, the other thing I like is I like the over of the 49.5.
Hold on. I'm just going to take a picture so he can put this in the video so you guys can see what's happening.
One of them's upside down. The other one's pretty much attacking him.
That way it makes sense when we're like so distracted while recording. We're not just like, crazy people.
Oh, goodness. Please don't unsubscribe. No, I like so I do. I like the over of 49.5. I have a few stats here. So for what this is worth, this is a little quirky one, but the Bucs in a dome, when playing in a dome this year, which is obviously always on the road for them, they haven't scored less than 20 points, and in the 5 games that they played in a dome, they've averaged putting up over 26 points per game. The Lions don't have a good pass D. They kind of put all, call back to your saying, they put all their eggs in a basket to stop the run, which is going to benefit, Baker throwing to those. He does have some good receivers that he can utilize. So I can see them moving the ball in the air. And then the other side of it is at home this year, the Lions, which, again, obviously they're playing at. They haven't scored under 20 points in a game, and they averaged 29.8 points a game at home this year.
Wow.
So, that said, that obviously adds up to me liking the over. Couple props. Amon-Ra St. Brown. His right now it's set at 91.5.
Going with him again?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you almost always can go with him.
Okay.
Like, I mean, he's so reliable. Again, I mentioned he's one of the top 3 in 100-yard games this year. His total set right now, again, surf the apps and check. You can probably find it a little lower, but last I saw him is it was 91.5. He's had 90+ in 5 straight games and 12 total this year. You could take him to score a touchdown as well. It's not like the Bucs have the best secondary in the world. So, I like Amon-Ra. I'm always going with a David Montgomery touchdown. I think we've kind of made that well documented on this channel.
Yeah.
He did that 12 of the 15 games that he played in. And one of those 3 that he didn't have a touchdown was against these Bucs, but it was because he got hurt. So the Bucs, they had a pretty good run D, but it wasn't like it was in years prior.
Yeah.
You've seen, a couple of the games like DeAndre Swift had a huge game against them in prime time, which I'm a little shocked they really didn't run him heavier the other day, the Eagles. So, but anyway, and then, I mean, it's really, if you're looking at TD props, it's really the guys we always mention. It's the 4 we mentioned: Laporta, Montgomery, Gibbs, Amon-Ra. And then if you're looking at the Bucs, I would take a Mike Evans again. I mean, he could have had one last week. He dropped it, but he's done it so many times this year. Yeah,
so close.
He's done it so many times this year. And then, like I said, Jahmyr Gibbs, he has 11 total in his last 12 games since the that first one he got against the Ravens. I think we mentioned that last week as well. But I would look at both quarterbacks to go over 1.5 passing touchdowns as well.
Okay.
Again, these teams are similar in that they generally try to stop the run, and their secondary is not that great. So I would definitely look at that as well.
All right. Is that everything for that game? No more props?
That's what we got right now.
All right. So last but not least, the Chiefs-Bills game Sunday evening. -2.5, total sitting at 45.5.
Yeah, this is kind of the game of the week everyone's looking forward to. It seems like it's every year in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Mahomes is 2-0 against Josh Allen in the playoffs. Both were at home. This one's now in Buffalo. I'm leaning Chiefs. I gotta be honest with you. So they played, a few weeks ago. Bills beat them 20-17. No Isaiah Pacheco in that game. The Chiefs obviously aren't the Chiefs of old, but now it's almost, how with everything in life, the pendulum swings too far instead of just kind of course correcting. Now everyone's kind of just acting like the Chiefs don't even belong here, which isn't the case. They're obviously still a top 5 team in the league. They're just not the dominant team they were. And now we have a visit from the other pup. So, that said, I'm just kind of going with the team until you prove to me you can beat them in the playoffs. I'm going to go with Mahomes. You know what I mean? So
why not?
Again, I think Pacheco makes a big difference in this game. No Gabe Davis for the Bills, which, he didn't have any catches against the Chiefs, but I think that was the game that he got the game ball for blocking. So, you're out without a big play receiver who has made big plays in the playoffs against the Chiefs for them. And then I'd like Pacheco to actually score a touchdown. He's had 5 total touchdowns in his last 5 games. I do like the under in this game. Again, they played to it a few weeks ago. And the Chiefs, it's kind of been well documented. They've shut down some of the most high-powered offenses. They still have one of the better Ds in the league. They try to get ahead, and then the second half they try to, sit on the ball, run the ball a lot. Speaking of sit, miss. And then, Yes, I like Josh Allen for a touchdown again.
Yeah.
16 in the 18 games he's played. You got Rashee Rice, who has become Patrick Mahomes' kind of go-to guy. Right now, I've seen his line sit at 68.5 yards. He had 72 in the last game against the Bills, and he's just really – he seems to get more and more work each week. He's kind of his security blanket. It's honestly more than Kelsey is this year, which is shocking, but definitely more than any other receiver. So I like the Chiefs. I like the under. I like Rashee Rice and Josh Allen's props. So and Pacheco for a touchdown.
Speaking of Kelsey, the brother, is he retiring?
That's what they're saying. He hasn't officially announced it.
Oh, okay.
But
I saw
like
something pop up that it was like his last game or something like that. And he was being done.
Supposedly he told his teammates that. We'll see.
Okay.
But yeah. Anyway.
Was that everything for the last game? The game everyone's waiting for?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, the Chiefs. I don't even know the weather for the Bills this week. To be honest with you, I gotta check that before I really put my bets in. But
maybe wait until the last minute for them.
But the Chiefs just came off one of the coldest games in NFL history, so I don't think that's gonna bother them.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Well, that's all we have for the divisional week of the playoffs.
That's it. You got some Harley hair on your nose.
That's great.
All right. Well, here's to our most unprofessional video yet.
Yeah,
Sorry that everything is just.
It's late at night. The dogs are ready for bed, but it's Friday night, so we wanted to kind of wait purposely a little bit till as late as we could to get the bets out because obviously things change and things like that. Mm-hmm. But then also not get you something. So we
for sure.
The Sixers game was on tonight, so we of course had to do that by the time I got off work and all that good jazz. So
and of course we won money on Embiid.
We
it's just
did.
No big
Embiid
deal.
Came through as per usual. So did Maxey and Harris for me. Oubre even came through for you tonight, which we doubted slightly.
Yeah. All right. Well, next week, the two dogs will probably be in these seats. We'll just.
Yeah, maybe they'll tell the podcast next time.
I think I just poked him in the eye because he keeps. You don't want to know what's happening under this table. They're just going.
She's carrying the rag that I threw at her.
It's great.
But anyways, so we are going to sign off. But like, share, subscribe, do all that good jazz.
All that good stuff.
And we will catch you next week.
Yes, and we're going to do better at posting on Instagram with these ever-changing things and basketball picks during the week as well. It's going to be hard to make a full episode like this for them.
Yeah, it's too many games, man.
Yeah, hey, share with your friends. Get us a bunch of subscribers. We can quit our jobs, and we'll make daily videos for you. But all right, guys.
Have a good evening.
See ya.